Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Deborah Peters Show. My name is Deborah Peters, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you join me again today. Thank you for being here. This show is all about consciousness. Being conscious is the key to creating your own reality. Consciousness in your health, which we're going to dig into today, consciousness in your wealth, consciousness in, yes, your business. You can be a conscious business leader, consciousness in your self-expression, and consciousness in your relationships. The more self-aware we can become, the more we can have an influence over the lives that we live. And so today, my guest, Paul, is all about that. He's the Rewrite Your Story man. And I'm just absolutely thrilled to have you here today. Thank you, Paul, for taking the time to be my guest.
I appreciate that, Deborah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's we were chatting before we went live today, and I have been on this path for 20 more or more, 20 more, 20 or more years, and 20 and more. And it's been phenomenal. What's interesting to me is that I really am saying more or less the same thing I was saying back in the day. However, the receivership of that, the receptivity to that, the ability for humanity to hear, and I don't mean just the words, but in your heart, to hear the message, to embrace the message, to implement the information as a real actionable process in their lives has gone through the roof. And it just, I'm loving it. I'm loving, and you must be too, where people can actually embrace your message. What are you seeing in terms of that? Like people saying, okay, I can rewrite my story. Show me. What are you seeing with that?
Well, I think it starts with loving yourself. Once you love yourself wholeheartedly and you have belief in yourself, sky is the limit. And that's where it starts. It starts with us. And it's not being selfish when we give ourselves self love, get a massage, whatever that is for anybody
Mm.
else. It's about taking care of yourself first so you can take care of others. And I think that's where it starts.
So, well, what I was meaning is, are you seeing an uptick in receptivity? What do you, in terms of people embracing it, people wanting to know more? What kind of responses are you getting?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I'm getting that more that they're seeking, they want help.
Yeah,
And that's the
yeah,
first step, right? Seeking help.
yeah,
Vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. And I'm seeing that more and more. And I think that is a great thing.
yeah. It's one of the stages of consciousness, and I feel like I've been a pioneer through all of stage one, which was you don't know what you don't know, and in the beginning in my coaching career, as a speaker first, I was speaking on stages all over the world, still am. And and then I launched my coaching business because I just absolutely love to help people, which I'm sure you do too. And that whole time of history where people were so resistant to the notion, most people, not everyone, I'm generalizing, but to make a point, most people were so resistant to the notion that you can shift your own reality. They didn't know what they didn't know, and they didn't want to know what they didn't know. So that's stage one consciousness. Now that we're experiencing stage two and stage three consciousness, and there's a lot of people in stage four where, stage two is you don't know, um, you want to know more. And I think that's what we're really trying to say here. You want to know more, but you don't really know what more you want to know. Right? So it's like, help me.
Yeah, it's about being hungry and being humble, like that you don't know everything, and that you're receiving, that you're opening yourself up to learning. Because if you're in a different mindset where you think you know it all, then you're not going to be receiving and you're not going to be learning. So it's opening up your
Yeah.
mind to new information. Yes.
Yeah, I know in the beginning when I was teaching this material, um, I was so passionate. I still am. But I'm a little wiser about who I share my passion with, a little more selective, shall we say. And in the beginning, I would share it with people that were closed. Yet I could see a spark in them that was craving it. And so I would offer it and they would reject it. And at first, because I was just so green about it all, I was so naive, I thought, everyone wanted to know how to create their own reality, and then when they would shut me down, I really took it personal. It was
Mhm.
really hard at first, like, I felt like an island, like I was out there all by myself. It was hard.
So you felt like they wanted to hear the message, but they didn't want to hear it from you, so you took it personally.
They wanted to hear the message, but they didn't wanna hear the message. It didn't care who the
Mhm.
messenger was. It
No,
didn't
agreed.
matter who
Because
the
at the time
messenger
you
was.
you took it personally because you thought it was you, but it was really them not wanting to hear the message.
Well, I was so naive at the time, I didn't realize they weren't rejecting me, they
Mhm.
were rejecting themselves,
Yeah.
and through their own lack, to your point, self-love of rejecting themselves, they of course, it was just like this shift. There was such a variant in vibration that it was really uncomfortable for them.
Mhm.
And yet I was so passionate, and like I said, I was just kind of like out there to help anyone I could. And when they didn't want to be helped, I was like, wow, am
Mhm.
I really on the right path? But I knew deep in my heart I was, or I wouldn't have kept going. So what do you do when you're I know you're a speaker as well and you get out and speak to groups. How do you handle an audience where you've got some people in the room are sitting on the edge of their seat and they can't get enough of you, and then other people are like, "Who is this dude? Like, what's he talking about?"
I like just to be me. I know that going into a big group of people, not everybody is going to be digging what I'm
Right.
saying is, and I just can't worry about that. I just got to be authentically me. And I think that when I hear a speaker, that's the one thing that I like to hear from them. Are they authentic? And even if
Yeah.
I'm not digging their message, if they're authentic to themselves, then I at least appreciate them getting up and doing their presentation because I feel like they really believe and breathe the message. So
Yeah.
that's what is for me. I'm just authentic to my message, and if half the room doesn't like it, I apologize, but I'm not going to change it because I'm me, and that's how I do it.
Well, that's rule number 1 in the professional speaking world is, you don't change your message, you change your audience. And that's the learning curve that I was explaining. As I was going through this process of, getting my message out to the world, and we're gonna get into attracting reality, right? Real experiences through our feelings and through our thoughts. As I was, getting my message out to the world, there was a part of me that wasn't yet aligned with my true authentic self. Although my purpose and my enthusiasm was authentic. So I was still aligning me with me and, to learn to be unapologetic to your point of I'm just being me, right? So as I was going through that process, it was being reflected back to me through what we would call rejection, which really isn't rejection. That's another conversation. Um, they were reflecting back to me where I wasn't in alignment. So the more I aligned with my purpose and my gifts and my talent, the easier it was because then I attracted different audiences. I never changed the message. I just would attract audiences that were in another level of consciousness where they were desiring whatever the message was for them. There was a better alignment. I would probably sum it up to say that.
I think that's perfect. I think that you're aligned with yourself and you know your message wholeheartedly, good things are
Yeah,
going to happen because you're
always.
living and believing what you're doing. And I think that's number one.
That is so true. That is number one. And, that's the other thing we were talking about before we jumped on here live was to give people tools to actually be that no matter what you do for a living, no matter what the job is, to be that in any job. And, because we spend the bulk of our life, what did you say? A third of our life
Two
working? Is that
thirds,
how much?
2/3 of our lives working.
Two-thirds of our lives working. And how tragic to do that without being joyful.
Yes. I think the worst thing that anybody can do is wake up every Monday just miserable,
Right.
miserable. And I get it. We all have to pay our bills. We all have to make money, but it does not have to be that way. We always have a choice. You can change it if you want to change it.
So let's go down that path. That's a wonderful segue. So changing your experiences from the inside out. Now we've lived in a society that which I really want to unpack this and I like to get into it every show because I think the listeners, get more from it each time. At least I did. Um, we have lived in a society that the actual structure of society champions the doer. The structure of society, the paradigm of society, um, champions the one that sacrifices the time with their family. It's like it's a hero type of anointing that, oh, look at you don't take lunch, you never go on vacation, you're working into the wee hours of the night. And there's a paradigm around that's not only what you need to do to get ahead, but it makes you a hero. And I really feel like, going through what we've been going through since 2020 has begun to really unravel that nonsense and get people to really look at their values and the quality of their life from the perspective of like, how do I really want to spend my time? Do I want to spend my time struggling and schlepping and grinding? God, I hate that term. I just like talk about that grinds on my skin, because it's a lie. It's a lie. So I want you to talk a little bit about how you help people rewrite their story from the inside out, not from the struggle and the efforting
Yeah.
outside in, right?
I want to add to what you were saying about, we champion, that work ethic, that 60-hour work week, no lunch, this and that. When you're on your deathbed, you're not thinking about, oh man, 10 to 20 years ago, I really cleaned out my inbox and I stayed till midnight. We don't think about that at that time.
Yeah.
So we should take a perspective on what we're actually doing. So getting to your point on rewriting your story, we've been talking about it. It's about rewiring your thought process, your mindset
Yeah.
when you're going through things. What is your belief system? Like when you're going to work and you really hate your job, um, and you don't want to change it. Why do you not want to change it? What is stopping you? What are those limited beliefs in your head that are stopping you? Is it that you don't feel you're good
Mm.
enough to go somewhere else? Do you
Yeah.
not want to do anything new? What is the main reason? And it can't just be I need to pay my bills. That's not enough. There's more to it why you're not changing your patterns. And a lot of times it's because we're comfortable. Even if it's a bad situation, we're comfortable. We want to hang with the devil we know than the devil we don't
Mhm.
know, so to speak. So the first things first is we have to get ourselves uncomfortable. And once we start to get ourselves uncomfortable, we start to get used to that feeling, and it's not as bad anymore. And you just keep pushing yourself, pushing yourself. But you don't have to overwhelm yourself with that. You can just start really small and go, okay,
Yes.
okay, that is good. Now let's try something else. So that's the first step, is getting us out of that comfort zone.
Right. Well, you nailed it when you said the word pattern. So, we get into patterns. We're creatures of habit. We're human beings. We are learning ourselves every day of our lives. And so the pattern that we create through that self experience can become very ingrained, that where it's like you're coming home from somewhere and you have this mental note to stop and pick something up, whatever it is, the dry cleaning, the groceries, stop and get gas, whatever it is. And then, you find yourself pulling into your driveway and you're like, I didn't stop. Because we have these patterns and they're neurologically embedded into our entire beings. It's not just up here in our head, it's our entire beings. And we live it like it's second nature because it's neurological. And some of those patterns work for us. Like, we learn to ride a bike, we learn to tie our shoes, um, we learn to drive a vehicle, we learn, to play a sport or whatever it is, and we get really good at it, and then I think it was Malcolm Gladwell talked about in one of his books about how the Beatles, when they hit that 10,000th hour of playing in pubs across England, that's when they became like a sensation. There's some tipping point that we hit within ourselves, within our neurology, where whatever it is we're thinking, feeling, and I want to get into that part, whatever it is we're thinking and feeling becomes us, because we build up enough neural pathways that we don't have to actually think it through, like it's second nature, like we're just able to do it. But the flip side of that is we can also build up neural pathways for struggle. We can build up bandwidth, for poverty. We can build up bandwidth in our neural pathways on failed relationships, picking the same partner. It's just a different body, but it's the same psychology. Um, Biting our tongue when we should really speak up. Like, these are patterns. Even disease, we build up these patterns of disease, and soon I'm going to do an entire program show. I'm going to do an entire show on the dis-ease program, because dis-ease is just lack of ease. And then we put labels on that, which we'll get into. But when you say patterns, like, I got on a tangent here, and I appreciate you for that, because what you're doing, Paul, when you're speaking at groups and conferences and to companies, you're actually giving them tools to, which is phenomenal. It's to pivot away from the pattern that produces limiting results and to get them to head toward a new reality, a new set of doing. So, what is this rewrite your story? How do people begin to do that?
Well, it's different for each person. But one of the things that we need to know is we need to know what our purpose is. What is our purpose? Why are we getting out of bed each day? There needs to be a purpose, because if you do not have a purpose of getting out of bed, that's when you get into autopilot, and that's when you start bodozing
Mhm.
days. You stop thinking. You're not unconscious, right? You're just living life.
Yeah.
And we need to live by purpose, and that's the first things first. And then when I tell people that, they get all overwhelmed and say, I don't know my purpose. I don't know my purpose. And that's okay. That's okay if you don't know your purpose.
Right.
We need to discover what your purpose could be. And another little wrinkle into this, as we get older and our minds and our beliefs, they change, our purpose then changes. So we have to constantly reinvent ourselves. So, you get to a certain age and you think, oh, you know what, I'm 50. I should know my purpose. And now I have my purpose, and now it's not really my purpose. And I'm upset because I don't know, the purpose is not the same purpose anymore. That's normal because
So I want to unpack, I want to unpack that a little bit of let's see, this is another societal program of age that every age has a certain meaning, and it's only a meaning that we've all given it. A belief is just a thought that you think over and over and over. And when we give a number, when we let a number define us and we give that number a certain meaning, then that becomes a stereotype that when we propagate that in mass, meaning lots of repetition, then that meaning, we become that meaning. And so then we look at our birth date and we say, I'm 20, so my life should look like this. My body should function like this. My mind should operate this way. These are the thoughts I should think, and these are the experiences that I should desire and do. And so then when we do that for age 30, we do it for age 40, we do it for 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. And now we're becoming something that society has created as a norm, and we're unconscious to it, and we're going through the motions, and we're limiting ourselves, and we're blocking ourselves, and we're turning ourselves into some kind of sheep that accepts a reality that has nothing to do with who we really are. So you can up level that a little bit by, it has nothing to do with age. It only has to do with the consciousness that you've created yourself to be. And that consciousness is a moving target. And you can change that with a single thought. And that single thought has to come from a desire to be more. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's really it. Do you want to be more? Now, you can say, no, I'm comfortable where I'm at, but I promise you, if you do that, you're not going to feel well. And so I want to just kind of do a little segue here. And then I know you've got something special for people, because we've got like about 20 minutes to go. And I wanted to kind of do a dive into claiming your power, so all the viewers can realize that they can claim their power. And I know you've done that for yourself. So tell me a little bit about how you rewrote your own story.
Well, I was born with something called cerebral palsy. And if your viewers don't know what cerebral palsy is, it's lack of oxygen to the brain at labor. And as a result of this lack of oxygen to the brain at labor, it leaves one side of the body paralyzed. And this is permanent, doesn't go away, can affect your speech. A lot of bad things can come about that. So when I was born, I wasn't moving the right side of my body very much. Obviously, my mom was very concerned about it. So she got me to the doctors to get some testing done. And it did indeed come back that I did suffer from cerebral palsy. And this particular doctor thought the cerebral palsy was so severe that he said that I would never, ever be able to walk. And when I got to a certain age, it would be a good idea to get me into a wheelchair, because that was going to be my reality going forward. Well, I have a tremendous mom, and she didn't take that diagnosis.
Good.
Second opinion, a third opinion, fourth opinion, a fifth opinion. Finally found a physician willing to help. And with this physician's help and me doing physical therapy, I don't know, 5 to 6 times a week, I was able to walk between age 2 and 3, which I don't really remember it that much, but obviously that's a huge feat when 4 of the doctors said that wasn't going to happen for me. But at the time, I could probably, when I was when I was really knowing what was going on, about 5 or 6, I could probably run about 25 yards before my leg would give out. So when I would play sports, my mom put me in soccer. I'm basically staying there where these kids are playing soccer around me. I'll never forget what my mom told me one day after practice, because I live it to this
Mhm.
day that she told me. She said, Paul, or I said to her, I go, Mom, I don't want to play soccer anymore. This is not fun. Kids are making fun of me. I'm
Mm.
basically standing out there. I don't want to do this anymore. And I remember what my mom told me that day because it's powerful. She said, Paul, if you don't want to play soccer anymore, that's fine, but you need to honor your commitments. So you need to finish out that soccer season. And if you don't want to play
Mm.
soccer after that, that's fine. And that's how I've lived my life ever since then. Was if I've committed to something, I finish out the commitment, and if I don't want to do it after that, I don't do it. After getting the data on it, and with my mom's help, I was it was really really tough for me because I was walking with a limp. I was holding my right arm differently. I was bullied and teased quite a bit in school, um, and especially in junior high, because junior high is a tough age with kids. 12 or 13, they're becoming teenagers. It's really really tough. And I remember one day, I had a really, really poor day, and I'm crying myself to sleep, saying, "Why me? Why am I going through
I'm
this?"
sure.
And I don't know what came over me, but I was at my tipping point because for a while, my go-to emotions were anger and sadness. Those were the emotions I was showing up most of the time, and I thought to myself, "That's not me. Those are not my emotions that I want to show all the time." But
Sure.
because of the environment I was in, they were coming up most of the time. And I thought, what could I do to change that? And I thought, what if I set a goal for myself and I focused it on this goal, and that will help me ignore the noise that was going on. And then I thought, what
Mhm.
could I do? I said at the time I loved baseball, so I made a goal for myself to wanting to make my varsity baseball team in high school. And I was playing fall ball, winter ball, spring ball, and if I wasn't doing that, I was throwing a tennis ball against the wall. And the great thing
Love
about
it.
this goal, I know this now. I didn't know this when I was going through this, but I started to send a different energy out towards these kids. I started carrying myself with more confidence, my shoulders back, my head up. And as a result of this new energy that I was sending out to these kids, they started sending a different energy back towards me. In other words, bullying and teasing me, they started rooting for me, all
Sure.
because of my energy shift. And that alone was the win.
100%.
But the cherry on top was I was able to make my varsity
Yeah.
baseball team.
Yeah.
So
That's a
yeah,
blessing. Yeah.
yeah. So it's I can go on and on and on, but that's kind of like my childhood story where it started. That belief in myself, and once I started to believe in myself, doors started opening, and and,
100%.
and that's been how it's been for my
I
adulthood. With
love it.
challenges, I have challenges, and then we find a way over those challenges. Because if you're not getting yourself into challenges, like I tell some of the people I'm coaching, they say, "Oh, I hardly have any challenges." I say to them is, how much are you pushing yourself then if you're not hitting challenges? Are you testing
Yeah.
yourself? Because if everything is easy, then what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Grow yourself, like
Yeah.
expand yourself. No, that's brilliant. That is so good. So you said something, and just for our viewers today, we were chatting offline, and I'm a human engineer, and I repattern people. It's what I've done for a couple decades. And so you agreed to kind of go down that rabbit hole of like releasing um, this energy in your body that keeps you from being as mobile as you would like. I'm not going to give it a label. But I had some thoughts when you were sharing this. And what is it that you said about it? You said it never goes away. What else did you say about it?
But it's something that you have for your life.
Right.
It can affect your speech. Um, there's a lot of labels to cerebral palsy. Um,
Yeah. Okay, cool. Because this is where we need to start, right?
mhm.
Is that and at any time, like we're going to do a little exercise here, and I'm going to show you how to repattern this. And if you feel like you're being distracted visually, you can always close your eyes, which is, I typically do these as a closed eye exercise, but it's whatever you're comfortable with. So one of the things I want you to consider is that um, everything you just shared is your toolbox to completely dissolve and send this dis-ease back to where it came, which is from nothingness. There's nothing outside of us that runs us, that makes us anything. Our entire reality is us pictured out, like pushed out. So what if what they told you is only their perception? Is that possible?
100% it is
Cool.
their perception. Yeah, 100%. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So the first step for you, like as homework past today, is to stop telling that story. Now, I know that's tricky because that's part of how you help people, right? You
Mhm.
tell your story. But maybe what you could do is you could tell that story without embodying it, like literally. Because when you tell it with such conviction and such power and such passion that you're repatterning your neurology of that as a reality, of that as some kind of unmovable, unchangeable truth. And so, yes, then it's true, right? So if you can find a way to disconnect yourself from the feelings that come with that and embody some new feelings, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So when you tell that story or even think about that story, what comes up for you? Like, what are the feelings? Yeah, so what are those feelings?
When I first started to tell that story, I would almost be emotional about it.
Mm,
It wasn't until I started coaching that I realized that I wanted to tell that story because I knew so people could see my origin on why I do what I do.
of course.
And so when I first was doing it, I knew that I had to do it. And it was extremely hard for me to tell that story. I almost was in the verge of tears of telling that story.
So what's that emotion? Is it do you
I
f
think it would be inadequate. Being inadequate, I think, is probably the first thing that would come to my mind.
yeah.
Protection, because all through growing up as a teenager or middle school, what have you, all I wanted to do was fit in. I didn't want any special treatment. I wanted to
Um,
be like everybody else. And so I wanted to protect that story. And then it wasn't until I started telling my story that I've actually released that feeling. I've actually released it. And maybe it's the speaker in me, and that's why I get
no,
passionate about it. But I think I had way more feeling of it when I was afraid to tell that
of
story. Now
course.
I don't have a worry about telling that story. I used to make up excuses why I walk with limp or hold my right arm differently. Now, I I tell my story,
So
and I
when you
own it.
do, let me jump in. So when you do, what's the emotions that are present? Or maybe it's a thought process, like what's happening within during that story? Because there's something more than you just sharing it.
Um, the thought process. Uh, it would just like I said, I think it would be more like anything. It would be more of an insecurity, that I
Mm,
am not adequate to somebody else that didn't go through what I went
I
through.
got you. Well, and what's so cool about that, let me back up for a second. In the 20 plus years that I've been coaching CEOs, I can tell you, Paul, that 99% of them have self-worth issues.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if they're CEO of the largest multinational corporation in the world. And this is a very interesting concept because most people assume that when someone is in that kind of a leadership role that they've totally got their shit together, they don't have any insecurities, their self-talk is always on point, and they're a powerhouse. And I can tell you that nothing could be further from the truth because I've coached a lot of those guys. And so if that's, any consolation, you're not alone. What's fascinating here is that the very thing that you said in the beginning of the show that you teach is self-love.
Mhm.
And it's that way for all of us. I know for sure that every client I've ever had since 1990 has had been a blessing to me as a client because whatever I was coaching them through was mirroring back some aspect of me that I needed to heal. And it's how I was so good at it. It's how I am so good at it because I can resonate with your feelings of inadequacy. I go through it too, I go through it too. And I've been doing this for a long time in 17 countries and I've coached heads of state and the FBI and I've done some crazy projects that I, don't have time to go into today with some people that one would think that we put on a pedestal and they've been sitting in front of me crying. And I was there because I was of the same vibration inside of me. Whatever my pain was what their pain was. And by coaching them through that and showing them how to repattern themselves, I was repatterning me. And that's the way it is with humanity. I mean, I can't express this enough. Whatever we're beating someone up for, we're beating ourselves up for. Whatever we're championing, that's a tough word to say, ourselves or another for, it's like it's a two-way street, baby. Like it's not one direction. So would it be okay for you to heal and release this sense of insecurity or inadequacy today and for it to be done and no longer a part of your psychology forever?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I mean, we're all human beings, and I would say you said 99%. I said I would say 100%.
I know. I know. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So being that you're willing to release this and let this go, I'm going to do a deep dive here and I'm going to ask you to be really vulnerable.
Okay.
So what's the purpose of having this going on with your body?
What's the purpose? I really don't understand
I know it's a mind twister
uh,
question. Yeah, it's designed that way on purpose. So, what's the purpose, if you were to say to yourself, okay, what's the purpose of me continuing to live like this? What's the purpose of having this going on with your body?
um maybe if I hear the question correctly, maybe it'd be a limited belief on my
Yeah.
end that it is what it is type of thing, and I just go with it.
Yes. So on some level, you've accepted it.
Wholeheartedly have accepted it, and
Well, let's get rid of that
okay.
because, and I'm not suggesting you reject it because the thing, whether you focus, however you focus on it, if you focus on it as an acceptance or you focus on it to reject it, you're still focusing on it. So
Hmm.
therefore it still perpetuates, right? And you know
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
So instead of accepting it, what could you accept instead?
What could I accept instead? I got the first thing that comes to my head is love.
Yes. Yes. Because in that acceptance of pure love, unconditional self-love, your body reflects that and resonates that back to you.
Yeah, I
And
would agree with that.
so, right? And so what would it take for you to completely accept and love yourself unequivocally?
Well, I think that's a daily process every single day. That's something that I feel is not something that's mastered. It's a constant thing that we have to do. It's constant practice we have to do each day. So that's what it would take is to have that certain amount of love for myself on a daily basis.
Yes. And what if you could do it once and be it forever, and it took all the effort out of that process?
That would be great. If there's a method on that, I'm all ears.
Okay, so can you feel that? Maybe go into your heart, maybe your heart chakra or maybe your solar plexus. Where would you feel that in your body?
I would say for me, it would probably be in my gut.
In your gut. Okay. So I want you to go into that feeling with your mind. I want you to go into that feeling and I want you to um really let that feeling like a big sun emanate through every part of your body, through every limb, through every organ, through every system, into every cell, every nucleus, and it's warm and it's sunny and it's happy and it's God. It's pure love. It's ease. It's joy. It's homeostasis. It's your innate divine blueprint for perfect health that is running through every cell of your body. And let me know if you can feel that.
I can feel that.
That's beautiful. I can feel it too. I can feel it emanating through your entire being. And I can feel cells waking up that were not so happy before. Can you feel them doing a happy dance?
I can feel them brightening up. Yes,
I love it. And I can feel how this is a new reality for you. Can you feel that?
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. And can you feel this completely emanating out from your entire being
yes. I
into the
can.
reaches of the universe and the light of God shining into you, through you, as you?
Yes,
Yeah. And this is oneness. And this is Paul, this is who you always have been. And the people that told you differently just didn't know better. They were only taught a certain way of understanding reality. So they weren't wrong. They did the best they could with the resources they had, but you don't have to carry that torch anymore.
absolutely. I've come to terms with that a long time ago. I've forgiven all that. I've forgiven them for their thoughts, the bullying. I don't know what was going on in their lives. It
Right.
could have been bad, and they were projecting on me. So it's all good.
Can you forgive yourself for projecting that energy out that you didn't know any better?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So I want you to take this feeling and I want you to imagine yourself floating up above now, kind of above your timeline. And with your mind's eye, I want you to look toward the future. And I want you to kind of back up a little bit into your past, maybe back when you were first born and everything was going on, with the birth, where this originated, Or maybe even into the womb. Maybe there was something going on in the womb, thought-wise, picking up on your mother's consciousness. I mean, anything's possible. So just go back to the original time when you accepted this. And I want you to ask yourself that now that you have this feeling, this healing in your body, is that old paradigm gone? Has it disappeared?
Yes.
Awesome. So now I want to double check. So I want you to whip out into the future, into any unspecified time in the future where if it were to have happened in the past, you would have had this old paradigm, but you may find now that you do not. Is it gone? Has it disappeared?
It has disappeared. Yes.
Oh my gosh. And now you've taken over control of your entire reality with self-love. And how does it get better than that?
It doesn't.
Oh
It
my
doesn't.
God. This is wonderful. Thank you for being so willing to, on camera, live, do this exercise. It's phenomenal.
Well, thank you for your help.
Absolutely. And so before we get into you sharing how people can work with you, just kind of unpack that for us and, how you doing? What was the experience like?
I think it's for me. It's okay to be vulnerable. I think that is a hard thing to do, is be vulnerable with yourself and show your true colors. And I think when you do that and you're willing to do something like that and willing to seek help,
Yeah.
great things that happen. So I said to myself, I'm all ears. I'm willing to be vulnerable, and as a result, it's given me a good shift
Awesome.
in my beliefs.
Awesome. Well, I'm always here for you, You're a blessing to this planet and there's no mistakes. You're here to lead and inspire and help people heal. And just whenever you can, like 5 minutes before you go to sleep at night, the last thing we focus on is who we become. It's what starts our next day. So just take a moment, get back into that feeling, see the sun emanating from you and through you, all your cells doing a happy dance, and just get into that feeling once a day. Doesn't take a lot of work. There's no struggle to it. Just practice. Yeah.
All right, I commit to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And maybe when you're telling your story, instead of saying like it's something you have for the rest of your life or your entire life and it never goes away, maybe what you can do is um, I used to believe that this never goes away. I remember back when I used to believe or think that it's something I would have for the rest of my life. Just add
Yeah.
a little
I like those words.
precursor.
I like
Yeah,
those words.
yeah. And then you stop taking ownership of it.
Hmm.
Yeah. So thank you. Oh my God, it's amazing. I've always wanted to take my show this direction with guests because then it leaves a lasting impact for them. They're not just guesting on my show, right? So tell us, I know you have something for everyone to download or get in terms
Hmm.
of how to work with you. What is that?
I wrote an ebook on how I was able to rewrite my story and how you can rewrite your own story. And it's free on my website. You can download it, and my website's a call to action.coach, and it's right there in the front. Just download it. It's yours for free.
I love it. And so what's your website?
A call to action.coach.
A call to action.coach. I love that. And you are in Southern California.
Long Beach. Yep.
So you work in the SoCal market. Do you go out of state? Like where else do you go?
Well, now because of Zoom, I was all over the world with different stuff, but now physically, it's been great to start to go
Yeah.
out and do events. I've done, gosh, I've done about 5 or 6 of them this year already, and looking to do a few more coming up here. Right now, all locally, but I'm looking to expand it.
You're open.
I'm open to it. I just love the local market because I live in such a great local market. So I've been able to feed a lot there. But yeah, definitely, I'm definitely open to going to Michigan or wherever they need me.
Yeah, wherever God sends you. Well,
Yeah,
you are a blessing. Thank you so much, Paul. Make sure you guys go to, say your website again,
a call to action.coach.
a call to action.coach, and get his ebook. And will you come back again? I'd love to have you back on.
I would love it. I would love it, and
Awesome.
I'm excited to hear about your tour coming up.
I know I have a big announcement to make. I'm kind of holding back on that, but I'll sort of give a little teaser, and that is I'm going to be on a multi-state, multi-city speaking tour real soon. So keep an eye on my social media. There'll be lots of details there, and we'll get that rolled out real soon. So remember, everybody, stay aligned, stay awake, and stay sovereign. This is Deborah Peters, The Deborah Peters Show. Mwah! You guys have a blessed week.